Good morning. We are live this Tuesday morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, and we are going to talk about helping our teens convert their passions into a career. So how can they leverage their passions into careers? And we have a guest with us today who has done just that. But before we get to our guest, hi, Brett. I just want to do our usual housekeeping. I want to remind you that we are live Tuesday, April 19th. But if you are joining us at any other time you are watching a replay, that means that you will not be able to contact us and converse with us via the comment section, but you should do that with other people who are watching replay because lots of people watch the replay. But if you are live this Tuesday, feel free to put comments or questions in the comments section and we will address those live on air. Good morning, Brett.
Good morning. How's it going?
It's going really well, and I know it is a really good early morning where you are.
Yeah. It's actually a little rainy here in California right now, but you know what? We'll take it.
Oh, you need the rain. You need the rain, so
Yes.
I heard.
Yes, early rainy morning.
Yeah. So people who watch regularly know that I emphasize Eastern time. So Brett is not on Eastern time. He is joining us very early in the morning. Oh, dark early, as my friend used to say. And we are going to talk about leveraging passions to careers. So why don't we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your book, because we want to show everybody your book, which talks about this. And I want to let our audience know that Brett has kindly offered 10 complimentary copies of his book to people in the audience. All you have to do is email me at kharding@yourteenmag.com. That's going to be in the comment section. Again, it's Harding, Harding, @yourteenmag.com, no spaces. And we're going to give you a couple of days since so many people watch the replay. So if you email me your postal address and say you want Brett's book, I'm going to give you 2 days. So on Thursday, April 21st at 9 a.m., we are going to randomly select 10 people and we are going to send you the book. So that gives you 2 days. So that's good news for the replay watchers if you're watching us before that. So I see it popped up in the comment section, and now Brett's going to tell us about his work and his story, and he's going to show us the book in question.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, good morning, everybody. This is my book, Theatre Geek's Guide to Disney, Google, and the NFL. This was a COVID project for me because as I'd love to speak a lot about today is taking advantage of your time and really turning lemons into lemonade in terms of you're always going to get oddball things thrown your way, whether it's good, bad, questionable, even in the middle. Take advantage of the time, and that's what I did during COVID. I wrote this book, and it's really focused on a lot about what we speak here, how you can take advantage of the skill sets in front of you, and not particularly have to follow the normal path, and find ways to play into your passion and develop a very successful career in an area of expertise that you enjoy, even if it's not the typical cut and dry way that people say you need to do things. So diving a little bit into my background, I actually started off as a theater geek. So that's why it's called a Theatre Geek's Guide. I started off when I was very young, on stage, backstage, just everything in the theater. I remember going to see like The Sound of Music and The Music Man when I was 8 years old, and I was hooked beyond that. And I spent many years as a kid and a teenager in the theater before I came to realize that I did a little bit of deep diving into professional theater and realized it wasn't something particularly I wanted to do full time for a living for one reason or another. And I wanted to find ways to leverage my skill sets in other areas. And, in theater, you build up some really awesome skill sets. You build up, first of all, you build up the ability to talk to people, and you work on crafting skills, especially if you're working on sets, and you build your basic construction skills. And if you work in tech like I did, you get to know a lot of audiovisual elements. So that led me down this path of starting to research radio, television, and film. And kind of flashing forward, by the way, I'm currently working for YouTube as part of Google, and I manage tech there. So that kind of ties it together, where the end goal is. But ultimately, what I ended up doing was as I was leading up to college, I had met with about half a dozen colleges around the country, and I wanted to find a really, really unique program. I wanted to find something that would allow me to focus in on all the skills I learned in theater, all those tech skills, but it wasn't going to force me to go to a conservatory. It wasn't going to force me to follow the one specific path. It was going to allow me to kind of be me and try a little bit of all three: radio, TV, and film. And that ended up leading me to Drexel University. And at Drexel University, I studied a really cool program called Entertainment and Arts Management. And I concentrated in television, cinema, film. And during college, I was able to, because I was in the heart of Philadelphia, I was able to network through school, leverage my student status, and meet all of the teams, the broadcast teams, and work with those teams as an intern, and then ultimately stayed on full time. And that ended up just began grow. I grew my network that way. Flash forward 4 years out of college, I ended up going down to Orlando, Florida, worked with the Walt Disney World Resort for 4 years, where I leveraged both my broadcast skills and my theater skills and just my love for Disney. I'm a total Disney geek as well. And then from there, I was able to, again, you got to focus on what opportunities are in front of you. And there was an opportunity to learn about project management. And to be honest, entering Disney, I had no idea what project management was. It wasn't what my degree was in. And 2 years into Disney, I ended up being a project manager on a very large project within the company. Found out that I loved it. It scratched all those little itches, specifically in tech and entertainment, but also in like organizational skills and communication and meeting people. After I grew that skill set, I ended up going back to school for a master's degree at University of Denver to get some formalization behind those skills and fine tune it. And just about the 4 year mark at Disney, I actually had Google reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I've been at Google now 3 years in a combination of two roles. And I'll tell you, it's been a wild ride, and that's just scratching the surface.
So that is so cool for anybody at any age that Google reached out to you via LinkedIn. It happens, people. It happens because we don't think it does. I want to remind people that if you email me, and my email address is in the comment section, kharding@yourteenmag.com, and send your postal address indicating that you are interested in receiving a copy of Brett's book. On Thursday morning, I am going to randomly pull 10 recipients, and Brett has graciously, there it is, agreed to send you 10 people complimentary copies of the book. If you're out there wondering, oh, this is a great story, but what does this have to do with my teen and their passion? I'm going to let you know that this morning we have breakfast conversations at my house because everybody drives and I no longer commute people to school. So we have breakfast conversations, and my son asked, our youngest, our teen, asked, oh, are you having that guy on that's talking about passions and careers? And I was like, you know what's coming on? I said, well, yes. And I explained, I was like, oh my. And he was really into it. And we had a nice conversation about how you can turn your passion, how you did it, how somebody else I know did it in a different, really cool industry of racing, and how you can change, you can take your passion. If there aren't internships, you can knock on doors and ask for one and tell people you have a love for this and be willing and open to opportunity, like you said. So I tell that story, I share it to let you know that sometimes all you have to do is let your team know that you listen to this interview with this guy, and it may spark a conversation, and it can help you identify your kids' passions. How do we help our kids discover their passions if we're not even sure what they are, or if they aren't? Because, we're talking anywhere from 12 to 18, 19. So how do we help them discover?
Try everything. And I mean, try everything. I work in sports. I can tell, like, I still to this day, I work in sports, whether it's at YouTube or whether it's outside of there. And to be honest, I played sports as a kid. I hated sports. I was terrible at it. I had no idea. I remember asking my dad on the first day of T-ball how we scored points in this game. And it hasn't gotten much better since. But don't give up on it, because I tried sports. I didn't like playing sports, but I ended up finding a knack for it in another area of the game, sports broadcast production. Looking at something like in high school, my high school had a fantastic television broadcast program. I hated making packages. I was not about that. Creating like packages, like video packages where you go out and interview somebody and edit it together and put it up. Not my thing. But I found I liked operating the camera and I liked editing, and I was able to use that and realize, ooh, I'd rather be running a camera at a sports game as opposed to, so it's kind of like combining those. So,
Yeah.
if you're, a young teen right now, or you're in high school and you're nearing college, and you're still not sure what you want to head into, you're looking into, just like a general degree, liberal arts degree, whatever it might be, just to try to keep moving forward. One of the main things right off the bat, this is a personal opinion, is I would say don't immediately rush, especially if you're not 100% sure what you want to do. Don't immediately rush into a very expensive school, some private school. A general ed degree, your first couple of years at a private school is going to be very, very, very expensive if you're not 100% sure what you want to do, as opposed to starting at maybe a state school or a community college or whatever it might be. There's a lot of options out there. Just get started. Just don't try your best not to take that gap. Try to make sure you stay in school, you stay on top of it. And in the meantime, go out and get some internships. Start talking to people, meet with professionals. Feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. Like just start, craft a very solid introduction letter of who you are, whether you're 12 years old or whether you're 18 years old, whoever it is. Craft a letter that describes who you are, what you're looking into, the situation you're in, and start reaching out to professionals. When I very clearly remember when I was in 8th grade, and I started to have this dream of working at Disney, and I was just like, how in the world am I going to work for Disney? It's a massive, crazy company, and I don't know anybody. I lived in Florida, I lived in Philadelphia, and Disney was in Florida and California. I knew nobody who worked at Disney. And now I probably have 300 people I know that, work at Disney after being there for all those years. It all started with one connection. It all started with just reaching out. As it turns out, freshman year of college, I was volunteering for a parade. There was an opportunity from a guest speaker that came to class and said, hey, is anybody interested in working volunteering to work the parade route at the Thanksgiving Day parade this year, the 6 ABC Thanksgiving Day parade in Philadelphia? And I said, yeah, I'm in. Well, lo and behold, the person who was producing, the line producer that day, that was running my crew, was an executive producer at Disney. And I got chatting with him, and he's a great connection to this day. I mentioned him in the book. You never know where you're going to make a connection, or what. The biggest thing that I've been told over the years constantly is, you're going to go into any opportunity thinking that you're going to be going into it to try one thing, or that you're going to be leveraging a certain skill set. You're going to end up learning 10 new things that you never even knew existed, and half of those things you may love. So just like my project management thing, I had no idea. If you told me when I was 18 that I was going to be a project manager, or now a technical program manager, I would have laughed and I would have been like, well, that sounds boring. You got to follow your own journey. So just try everything. Get involved in clubs. Reach out to people, get internships, even if they're unpaid. Just spend, limit your hours. Don't be taken advantage of in terms of, your time. Just try everything and make those connections, and never burn bridges.
Okay. So we've used this term, and it's in our title, leveraging your passions. What exactly does that mean? If my team says to me, what do you mean by that? What do I say? How do I answer?
I think the best way to think of that is, say that you are somebody that you are really into, I don't know, riding something that I don't know about personally. Like, say you're into riding skateboards, or working on, your bike, or something like that. If you're really into methods of transportation, if you will, and if your parents are nagging you and saying, what, how are you going to go to college because you love, how are you going to make a career out of skateboarding, or how are you going to make a career out of working on bikes? Think about what skill sets you're building working on whatever it is that you spend your time doing. Dig deeper. Don't just think about it as working on bikes or riding skateboards. Think about it as that you have a unique skill set that is associated with that hobby. So with skateboarding, for example, there used to be something called the X Games. I don't know if they're still around at this point, but there sure is skateboarding involved in many. There's professional skateboarders out there beyond belief, like that are on TV. Think about, sure, say you don't want to be a professional skateboarder, think about what else you could do that you can leverage that passion, but also your knowledge of skateboarding or biking. You could get involved in Olympic committees. You can get involved, start volunteering for the Olympics when they come to California in 2028. Get involved in local competitions. Think about if you could be a judge, or can you just start off as a production assistant volunteering for a broadcast that they might be on. I apologize in advance. Everything I tend to always refer back to broadcast television of sorts,
That's
because
okay.
it's where my brain goes. But think about, I mean, flipping that around, think about somebody who's really into cosmetics. There is tons and tons of opportunity. If you are into cosmetics, don't just think about it. Sure, if you want to be a cosmetician, go into doing that for a living, hair and makeup, et cetera. That's fantastic. But there's other things you can leverage as well. Go work backstage in the theater. Go get involved and be or on a television set. Go be a hair and makeup artist on a television set or a movie set. All of that begins with understanding what it is you're passionate about and thinking outside the box, because there's always going to be tons of people or tons of trades and industries that leverage your skill sets. You just got to think about it, and then from there, once you know what that passion is, and you can see areas where you potentially could, make a career out of it, or at least make a couple bucks off of it. At that point, go on LinkedIn, go online, start searching, see who you know in those industries, and start reaching out. There's no problem with reaching out.
Okay. So you've given us a lot of good advice for the teens in answering that question and the previous question. What advice do you have for the adults in their life who want to help them? They see either their teen is stuck or doesn't quite know what to do. How can we help them leverage their passion if we've already identified one? And as you said, it can be a passing one. It doesn't have to be a permanent passion at 13, but it can be, how do we help them leverage that? What do we do? Because sometimes we do too much.
Totally. Yeah. I think it definitely, I think back to like my parents. If my parents were pushing me to do something when I was a teenager, I probably would not have been as into you gotta, in a way, you gotta almost, it's a skill set. It's a muscle you got to grow and find a way to make them think it was their idea. So it's almost, and definitely I'm not a parent of a teenager, so I can't speak too deep into it, but I'm thinking about it in the terms of, if you see that your teen is into, whatever they may be into, start thinking about, do the research yourself and start thinking about how they potentially could build a career, or at least grow those skills, or just spark interest in something new. But then see if there's ways to present the idea to them in a way that they're going to think it was their idea. So again, like going back to former examples, if you see that they're really into hair and makeup or biking or whatever it may be, do a little bit of research, do a little bit of asking around. LinkedIn is not just for teens and college students. LinkedIn is it goes all the way up to executives and CEOs who have been in the industry for 40 years. Go online, do some research and see what these jobs are, see who's in those connected, who's in those positions, and see if you can just get them connected. One of my favorite things to do as a teen and a college student was, I love to shadow professionals in their job. To this day, honestly, if I still have the opportunity, I'm still all about it. I'm heading out to a convention in Las Vegas next week called NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters. And yeah, I mean, most of my team, we end up, either presenting or meeting with professionals at the event, but I still am going to spend time meeting with professionals in other industries that I don't particularly work in or haven't worked in yet, just because I love getting to see that. So find a way to see if once you know what it is that your teen is passionate about, get them connected with professionals who may be able to share that interest. I mean, just enough to be able to show teens that they can make a living off of doing something that they love. That could be something that at least gets the gears turning a little bit and gets them excited.
And I think parents, one thing that's helpful, that there are a lot of people, and people like this. Some are famous, some personally, who have very interesting careers that they've created, careers that possibly didn't really exist because they've combined things. We had someone on the show a few months ago, and she's a culture professor expert, and she started a blog and stuff, but she took her love of entertainment and music and all these things, and she made something of it. Or you and I spoke about the math nerd who also likes basketball, who when I was in college, I went to school with his daughter, and she told me what her father did, and I was like, wow, he's a math nerd who loved basketball, couldn't necessarily play, and ended up being a statistician for an NBA team, and that is still a job. So if you just give them these examples, then they'll start thinking about what it is that they like to do. I loved how you said shadowing. I've seen teens do that. That is not a job that they're going to find a listing for. That is something where they have to be proactive and they have to go and ask if they can shadow. If it's a big place, they'll probably be sent to HR. One of my sons did that, and HR thought it was so cool and industrious and set up a rotation so that he could go and shadow different people and see different parts of the company and how it ran. And I thought that that was fabulous. And they did too, but you have to reach out for things like that. So for parents, I think maybe if you ask your teen if they want you to reach out, that may help. What more, do you have other advice for teens? Specifically for teens that we can share with our teens? Because you said, oh, you're not a parent of a teen, but we've all been teens. And some of us more recently than others. So what advice? You were a theater geek. So what prompted you to take that further? Because a lot of kids have passions in school, but then they don't take it after graduation. They don't take it anywhere.
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing is really just finding what it is, even if there's opportunities that you think may be interesting. So like as a teen, I was really focused on Broadway and Disney were my two biggest focuses. Like there was nothing else on my mind other than Broadway and Disney. I think Disney made my parents excited. Broadway scared them like crazy because there's always the long standing story of the starving Broadway artist who's serving tables. Most of my friends, to be honest, it's like, yeah, you're serving tables for 6 months out of the year, and then you might get a gig for a little while. But anyway, either way, a fantastic career, and it's all what you make of it. But it really comes down to getting your eyes set on something. So, as a teen, everybody's going through a lot. We put so much stress on high schoolers these days. It's just absurd how much stress we put on high schoolers in terms of the SATs and everything you have to do for if people who are taking like the pre-college courses within high school, and also all of your after school activities and college applications. It's a very, very stressful time, not to mention you're still a developing human, you're still a developing teenager. Like there's a lot going on there. So any way that a teen can find an escape into something that they love, whether it's sports or whether it's their love for theater or love for any other type of hobby. I had friends who worked in cars that are now are part owners or senior managers at car dealerships. Like find what it is that speaking to teens right now, find what it is that you're interested in. See what you may be interested in. It really doesn't matter what it is. And then just do a little bit of research to see if it's something that you think you might want to go into for a living. And you don't need to dive into it right now. You don't need to particularly, start working in a car dealership or start working in a theater or start working at your local theme park. But just even find out if it's something that you might be interested in, like give it a try. Just, go shadow, talk to professionals who are in that career. Something that I will say, like looking back at my own experience, that I have no regrets whatsoever. But I look at like my time at Disney, and at Disney, I was always on the operations end. I specifically worked in the theme parks, and I have a lot of friends who actually now I work with at Google. It's, that we've since left the company and work in the corporate world, but a lot of folks' paths were changed based on what they did in high school and their first couple of years of college. So my first couple of years of college, I spent working in professional sports. And therefore, to this day, I've worked for like 12 professional sports teams around the country. And it's easy for me to reach out to teams because I'm well connected. I have a very well-built network. On the other hand, though, my network may not be as well built as my current coworker, who she spent her high school years and her college years interning in like Walt Disney Imagineering or something like that. She put the time in, so she's very well connected in the theme park design world. And in a way, like when I was at Disney, I was kind of jealous of her because she was designing the roller coasters. I was working on putting fun lights on them and doing events like the marathons, but she was like physically designing those things. And in a way, I wish that I had spent more time in high school connecting with the correct areas. So connecting with the mechanical engineers, and so do your research. Don't overstress about it, though. You do have time. It is not the end of the world. You can pivot your career. You have time. Just continue to research. And the last big piece of advice in terms of this specifically I'll give is always find out what you don't want to do. Even if you think you might not want to, even if you think it's something that doesn't really sound interesting, give it a try, because you might like it. You really might, or it might lead you to something that you didn't know existed. However, anytime that you get into an opportunity, so like me personally, I worked for CBS Radio my senior year of college, or senior year of high school. I was an intern. They put me on the night shift, and I was third shift. I mean, I was third shift overnight on the weekends. My senior year of high school, as you'd imagine, there was other things I wanted to be doing. My senior year of high school on the weekends, it was miserable. It was not fun at all. I was surrounded by folks who they lovely people, great organization, but these are folks that they're like, oh, there was an incident, that happened outside. Let's go chase after it and find out. They chase the scary things that happen. I'm like, this is wild. No, but I found out I didn't want to work in radio. Like, I found out I didn't want to work in news radio. So anytime you can discover something that you do not want to do, call it a success. It's something that you learned early, and you don't need to. That the scariest thing of all time is to go through 4 years of college or more, rack up who knows how much debt in student loans, and then just to get to the first day of work and realize that it's something you don't want to do. Don't allow yourself to do that. Get in early, give it a try, find out if you actually want to do it. Go shadow a cardiologist for the day and see what a cardiologist actually does day in and day out. You might love it, you might not.
I love that advice. What I heard was that parents need to encourage them to be open to opportunity, be open to change, and then take a deep dive into whatever the interest is. Just take a deep dive and know that you don't have to have a planned end result. You may discover that you love, or you dislike, or whatever, or you just discover something new from that dive. Do you have any, in addition to your book, which is a wonderful story, do you have any additional resources or information to share with our parents? We're winding down our time now.
Totally. Well, I guess first of all, I know I'm a broken book with LinkedIn, but seriously, LinkedIn has landed me at least four jobs over the years. So always, doesn't matter if you are 14 and just diving into high school right now. Go start a LinkedIn. Seriously, it does not matter what age you are. I pushed my dad in his late 50s to go start a LinkedIn because you never know. So sign up for LinkedIn. Start building your profile. If you are a high school student who's just not even getting ready to apply to colleges yet, build a LinkedIn page. Go look at other LinkedIn profiles of people that are in high school and college, and model years after theirs. Put what school you're going to, even put what schools you're aspiring to go to, like where you might be applying. That is okay to put up there. Recruiters are going to be looking at things like that. Put in what jobs you've currently had, and really focus in on what your skill sets are and the skill sets that you're working on. Even just putting down that you worked as a cashier at the local convenience store for a couple of years shows that you have you're well put together enough that you've held a job in high school, and that you know your time management skills. And if you were a manager of that store, then put down that you've got people skills enough to be a manager. You are well so build your LinkedIn profile. Beyond LinkedIn, it really depends on what industry you are going into. If you're going into sports, start looking into workinsports.com, teamworkonline.com. They all have some fantastic internship opportunities. I'm all about reaching out directly to the organizations as well. Something as a Disney nerd geek myself that I just love it. I would highly recommend, especially if you're not 100% sure what you want to go into, go look into the Disney College program. You're gonna work your butt off, but it's a really fun program to get involved in. Also look in the Disney professional internships. Another one, even just for anybody who's looking into any type of business or computers, really hitting all these companies I've been with. But look at the Google online certifications. Most of them are all free. You can just take them online. In general, look at certifications online. LinkedIn also has a lot of courses through LinkedIn Learning. So really anything you can do to grow yourself as an individual, grow your network, really just do some research in your industry. There's a lot of resources out there, and just keep in mind that everybody, no matter what job or career you may be aspiring for, the most magical thing to keep in mind is that every single solitary person that you look at out there started in a very similar situation to where any of us are at, in terms of knowing nothing like about what it is that you're eventually going into. Nobody was born or went into high school being, magically knowing how to be the CEO of a company, or knowing how, whatever that may be. Everybody had to start somewhere. And trust me, as somebody who was not spoon fed and was not, I didn't have any family ties to any of the businesses I've ever worked in. You can make those connections. Just remember, life is about connections. It is about who you know, and keeping those lifelong connections. And seriously leverage that student status. It is, organizations love working with students, high school students and college students alike. And the earlier you get in, even if you're a high schooler and you know that you're going to need a master's degree or a doctorate degree to get into whatever job you're looking to get into, get in early, get your name on their radar, because when you go to apply in however many years in the future, the best thing is you're starting with your name already in there, and you can reach out to those connections. That never, ever, ever, ever apply to a job without reaching out to somebody first or in parallel. You should already know some people, or at least reach out to people at that company and try to get your name in, because you don't know how many applicants you may be. The best thing you can do is be proactive and try to get your name on their radar.
Okay. So you say it's never too early. I love the idea of building a LinkedIn account. The LinkedIn is not just for CEOs. If you're in high school, it's time. Go ahead and build your LinkedIn account. Put whatever is your current information in there. You never know. Google could reach out to you like they did to Brett. It happens. We're going to put the resources that I wrote them down. So as soon as this is over, I'm going to put the resources in the comment section so the audience can pull up the resources. I want to remind people that Brett is giving away 10 copies of his book. So if you email me at kharding@yourteenmag.com, and that's already in the comment section, on Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern time, I'm going to randomly select 10 winners, and 10 people will receive a copy of the book. So just send me in the email, send me your postal address, and say that you are interested in Brett's book. And that's as easy as that. Thank you, Brett. We really appreciate this. Best of luck with the book. I love your story. I think that parents can use it to really encourage their teens. You just gotta, think out the box. It's okay. You can build your life from what you love.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me. This has been great. And please, anybody feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to chat, and best of luck. Hang in there. It's going to be a wild journey for all of you, as long as you just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Thank you. Tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, we are here again on Wednesday, we have coffee with Jen and Sharon. They're going to be here 10:30 a.m. dishing over something having to do with parenting and families. It's always a lot of fun. You should bring your coffee and enjoy your time with Jen and Sharon. Same place where you found us today. You can find them tomorrow morning, same time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Brett. I really appreciate your time and your willingness to share your story. And we will see you next time. Bye-bye.